Welcome back to the Weekly Education Pulse. I'm Sami.
I'm Tony. Each week, we break down the biggest developments shaping international schools market across the globe, from policy shifts and investment trends to new school openings and emerging models.
Yeah, today's episode is a big one. We've got updates from South Korea's record international enrolments, Portugal's expanding education market, Dubai's soaring higher education growth, new developments in Zanzibar, school expansion announcements in the UAE, and demographic shifts in the US. But finally, a fresh innovation coming out of Singapore.
7 stories, 3 regions, a lot to unpack. So let's get on with it.
Yeah, and we begin with South Korea, where the number of international students has reached a record 300,000, a major milestone that underlines the country's rise as a regional education hub.
That's right. The Ministry of Education reported that international enrolments have more than doubled since 2015, driven by a mix of government policy, targeted scholarships, and the global appeal of Korean culture.
Absolutely. The Study Korea 300K initiative, launched back in 2021, aimed to attract more international talent by streamlining visa processes and promoting Korean universities globally. Now, it's achieved that target and a year ahead of schedule.
What's particularly interesting is where the growth is coming from. A large share of students are coming from Vietnam, China, Uzbekistan, and Mongolia. But there's also been a rise in applications from other parts of Asia and even Africa, showing Korea's expanding global reach.
And it's not just about higher education. Korea's K-12 and international school sectors are also growing, especially in cities like Seoul, Busan, and Jeju, where bilingual and global pathway schools are attracting both local and expatriate families.
Success is part of a wider national strategy to make South Korea a knowledge economy hub, integrating education with innovation, cultural influence, and regional partnership.
So, while the world often looks at Japan or Singapore as education powerhouses, South Korea is now firmly in that conversation, combining academic excellence with strong global branding.
And this 300,000 milestone sends a clear message. Korea isn't just exporting culture through K-pop and K-drama, it's exporting education and attracting talent too. And staying with the theme of regional growth, let's move to Portugal, where Sharing Education Group has announced a major national expansion, along with 2 new education brands set to launch in 2025.
Yeah, this is a big development for the Portuguese market. Sharing Education Group already operates several schools across the country, but this announcement signals a more ambitious, coordinated national footprint.
And the plan includes new school openings, brand consolidation, and the creation of 2 fresh brands, one focused on international bilingual education, and the other designed to be a more affordable community-based model.
Yeah, and that's what makes this pretty interesting. Portugal's education landscape is diversifying at speed from British and American curriculum schools in Lisbon and also down in the Algarve to lifestyle-driven schools and now more mid-market international options emerging in secondary cities.
That's right, and the Sharing Education Group is clearly positioning itself to cover multiple price points. That multi-brand strategy mirrors what we've seen from major groups globally, creating a ladder of options designed to serve different socioeconomic segments while keeping operational efficiencies.
Yeah, it also aligns with demand that we're seeing. Portugal has experienced a strong wave of relocation, remote work migration, and returning diaspora, especially since the pandemic hit. And families from Northern Europe, Brazil, France, and the US are choosing Portugal as a long-term base. And the domestic appetite for bilingual and international pathways is climbing as well.
With the government continuing to push for talent attraction and innovation hubs, particularly in Porto, Lisbon, and Braga, high quality schooling becomes a critical piece of national competitiveness.
Yeah, Sharing Education Group's expansion is also a sign of rising investor confidence. Education demand in Portugal has shifted from being primarily expat driven to a much more blended, resilient domestic international mix.
So while Portugal may not grab the headlines like Dubai or Singapore, developments like this show that they're becoming one of Europe's most dynamic and strategically interesting education markets.
Yeah, and over to the Emirates now, where a new study from Dubai's leading education hubs forecasts a 40% increase in higher education enrollments by 2030. That's a massive growth trajectory for the tertiary sector.
It really is. The study highlights that Dubai's higher education population has already crossed 30,000 students, and with new institutions opening and existing ones expanding, the city is on track to hit over 42,000 enrolments within the next 5 years.
Yeah, what's driving this growth is a mix of different factors. You've got Dubai's talent attraction policies, the rise of specialized degrees aligned with the future economy, and a big push to make the city a global higher education hub.
It's not just international students coming in. There's a strong domestic demand too, especially from UAE nationals who want international degrees without relocating abroad. Dubai is positioning itself as a safe, globally connected alternative to studying overseas.
The research also shows that business AI related disciplines and sustainability focused programs are seeing the strongest demand. Universities are racing to build capacity in these areas because they align with the UAE's long term economic strategy.
We're seeing the same playbook that's driven Dubai's success in K-12: regulatory clarity, streamlined licensing for new institutions, strong partnerships with global universities, and this is all master planned education zones designed around student experience.
Exactly. And when you factor in the broader population growth projections in Dubai, potentially reaching 7.8 million people by 2040, this higher education surge feels like part of a much bigger picture.
And that's just another reminder that UAE isn't just building schools, it's building an entire education ecosystem. From early years to K-12 to universities, the entire pipeline is being shaped to support talent attraction and future industries.
And that makes Dubai one of the most strategically ambitious education markets anywhere in the world right now.
Okay, and now to East Africa, where GEMS School Management and Infinity Development have announced that they're exploring a collaboration to establish a new international school in Zanzibar.
Yeah, this is a really interesting development. I mean, Zanzibar's tourism driven economy is expanding, and the island has been attracting a growing number of expatriate professionals, remote workers, and also investment groups. So, high quality international school has been one of the missing pieces in the local infrastructure.
While Tanzania as a whole has several established international schools, Zanzibar is still an underserved market. The island's population is young, growing, and increasingly globally connected, and the demand for premium international education has been rising steadily.
Yeah, James entering the conversation is significant because even though this is still in the exploratory phase, James has operational capability, curriculum experience, and governance structure to deliver a large scale internationally accredited school in a challenging but high potential market.
And Infinity Developments brings local insight and real estate expertise, which is crucial in a destination like Zanzibar, where land use, sustainability regulations, and long term planning can be complex.
Yeah, the model being discussed appears to focus on a world class, environmentally conscious school that fits with Zanzibar's development vision. And this aligns with the island's push for sustainable tourism, eco friendly construction, and community driven economic growth.
If this collaboration moves forward, it could become one of the most strategically important education projects in East Africa, not because of its size, but because of its location and its role in supporting talent attraction, long, long stay tourism, and broader economic expansion.
And this fits into a wider trend we've been tracking: global school groups expanding into non traditional markets. Think Red Sea in Saudi Arabia, new hubs in Vietnam, or premium schools opening in Cyprus, Malta, and Mauritius. Now, Zanzibar looks like the next frontier.
Exactly. Education is becoming a defining element of lifestyle driven migration patterns, and Zanzibar's move to bring in GEMS shows a real ambition to diversify its economy and preparing long term family oriented development.
And we're going to zoom back to Dubai now, where InnoVentures Education has announced the opening of a brand new school, Dubai International Academy Town Square, which is set to launch in September 2026.
InnoVentures is already one of Dubai's most respected school operators, with a strong track record through schools like DIA Emirates Hills, DIA Al Bashar, and Raffles International School. This new campus reinforces their continued expansion strategy across the city.
What's interesting here is the location, because Town Square is one of Dubai's fastest growing residential communities, driven by young families, first-time homeowners, and strong mid-market demographic. And these are exactly the families seeking high-quality international education with an IB pathway, but at a more accessible price point.
And InnoVentures has always positioned itself smartly between premium and ultra premium. They're known for strong IB delivery, consistent academic outcomes, and well-rounded student support, but without drifting into the top-tier fee brackets.
Yeah, this expansion also aligns with what we're seeing across Dubai's education landscape. There's continued population growth, rising young families relocating for long-term residency, and demand for established, reputable operators who can offer continuity and also quality.
Let's not forget the UK expansion elsewhere in the city. The mid-market is becoming one of the most competitive spaces, not just premium. InnoVentures entering Town Square is a direct response to that demand.
Yeah, so the new campus is expected to open with early years in primary initially, and then scale up to be a full IB continuum with the PYP, MYP, and also the DP being offered. So that gives families a complete future-proof pathway within one school.
And this is clearly part of a wider long-term strategy. Dubai's enrolment data shows sustained annual growth. And with more families choosing the city as a permanent base, the need for more mid-market IB capacity is obviously increasing.
So this campus in Town Square is well timed, well positioned, and likely to be in high demand. Another strong sign that Dubai's education expansion is continuing, but in a more targeted, community-centric way.
Less about mega campuses in the city centre and more about embedding strong schools into new residential districts where families are building long-term roots. And now heading over to the United States, where school districts across Michigan are reporting a significant surge in English learning students. In some areas, numbers have nearly doubled in the last few years.
Yeah, the report highlights a major demographic shift. With Michigan is actually seeing increased migration from Latin America, the Middle East, and parts of Asia as well, leading to rapid growth in students who require English language learning support.
And what's striking is how widespread this is. It isn't just isolated to one or two districts. It's affecting urban centres like Grand Rapids, smaller urban districts, and even rural communities. The state has become far more culturally and linguistically diverse than it was a decade ago.
And with that comes new challenges. Schools are reporting shortages of certified ESL teachers, limited bilingual support, and strained resources, especially in districts that weren't historically accustomed to large multilingual populations.
This ties into a trend we've been tracking globally: rising mobility, shifting migration flows, and an increased need for multilingual teaching expertise. This isn't just a Michigan story, it mirrors what's happening in Canada, Australia, Germany, and parts of the Gulf.
Yeah, the article also mentions that many of these students are arriving from countries experiencing economic instability or political disruption. And that means schools have to think not just about language support, but social emotional needs, integration programs, and family outreach.
Here's a broader implication. US schools are becoming microcosms of global mobility. The capacity to support English learning students is becoming a defining factor in school quality, not just an optional extra.
For Michigan, this could reshape long-term planning. Districts will need stronger bilingual pipelines, teacher training partnerships, and more flexible curriculum models that support new learners coming into their schools.
And strategically, this is going to influence hiring. Demand for ESL certified teachers is already tight. It's going to intensify. Districts may need to rethink incentives, training pathways, and even international recruitment strategy.
So while challenging, this surge also represents an opportunity for Michigan, and it's to build a more globally aware, culturally responsive education system.
Diversity brings complexity, but also strength innovation, and new community connections if schools are equipped to embrace it.
And to our final story this week. We're heading to Singapore, where XCL World Academy has officially opened a brand new early years and primary campus, a major expansion for one of the city's most forward-looking international schools.
Yep, the new campus is designed specifically for learners aged 3 to 12, with a purpose-built early childhood environment, innovation spaces, and flexible learning studios. It isn't just an extension, it's a complete reimagining of how early years and primary education can function in a modern international school.
Yeah, XCL has been very deliberate in positioning itself as future-facing, with a strong focus on personalized learning, entrepreneurship, and digital literacy, and also life skills. So this new campus feels like an investment directly into that vision.
It's also a strategic response to the market. Singapore remains one of the most competitive international school environments globally. Even with high supply, there is strong and steady demand for quality early years provision, particularly from globally mobile families and Singaporean parents seeking IB pathways.
Yeah, and the early years segment is a cornerstone of the Singaporean market. Parents tend to enroll early and retention is high. So offering a high quality early years or primary campus is not just an academic decision, but a long-term enrollment strategy.
And what stands out in this new development is the emphasis on learning through play and inquiry-based learning, and the integration of digital and design thinking elements, even in the lower grades. It reflects Singapore's broader push towards creative, future-ready education.
Yeah, and XCL is uniquely positioned. They bring in a mix of international leadership experience and regional insight. Their curriculum direction, which is IB-centric but deeply modernized, caters to parents who want both structure and innovation.
It also signals how Singapore's international school market continues to evolve. Even with mature supply, schools are differentiating through these specialized early learning campus, innovation hub, robust co-curricular programs, and intentional future skill development.
And when you look at the region, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore still sets the benchmark for quality and operational excellence. So developments like this keep that benchmark pretty high.
So the opening of XCL's new campus is more than a facility announcement. It's another marker of how schools in Singapore innovate to remain globally competitive.
And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. From South Korea's 300,000 international students to emerging markets like Zanzibar and steady growth across the Emirates and Europe.
What's clear is that the pace of change is accelerating, whether it's demographic shifts, new school concepts, or curriculum innovation. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes.
And as always, we'd love to hear from you, so please drop a comment below.
We'll be back next week with more global updates, insights, and analysis from international school sector.
Until then, see you next time.